Who of you recognizes this sound? SOS. SOS in Morse code. 3 letters, long and short. Originally, it didn't even mean save our souls. Originally, it was just easy to beep. And they came up with that catchy help for memorization, calling it save our souls. It was easy. Everyone could do it. You can still knock it. Many people learn it still. After that came Mayday, when vocal transmission was possible. So, who knows where Mayday came from? That's French. That was m'aider. Help me. But then it eventually switched into English and turned into Mayday. Those terms we just heard in our psalm. This Lent season, we're guided by Psalm 22, because that is the psalm that Jesus prayed at the cross. He actually yelled it down to the valley. And all of this Lent season, we're going to have different bits and pieces of Psalm 22. Today, among others, we had verses 19 and 20. But you, O Lord, do not be far away. O my help, come quickly to my aid, Mayday. Deliver my soul, SOS, from the sword, my life from the power of the dog. Jesus is crying for help, for his soul to be saved. He didn't beep, that wasn't invented yet. He yelled it out through the psalm that everybody knew to pray when they were in danger. Today, I want to follow one big question with you. How could that possibly have happened to save Jesus' soul at the cross? What would have been the odds for Jesus not to be crucified? How could we have saved the Son of God? And for that I want to look at the end of our psalm first. And the psalm ends in the casting of the lots. They divided my clothes among themselves, and for my clothing they cast lots. And Mark, picking that line up, because actually the whole Passion Gospel is created based upon Psalm 22. And in Mark it sounds like this: and they crucified him and divided his clothes among them, casting lots to decide what each should take. So today we're in the business of rolling dice. That's what casting lots in today's world would be. Throughout the Bible, that is a very common thing. Whenever people are not sure what the will of God would be, they cast lots. Who's to get that piece of land? They cast lots. Who's to win that dispute? They cast lots. That's a very common thing to find out what the will of God is, to resolve conflicts. Randomization helps. The Bible calls that kleromancy, based upon the Greek word for dice. So let's go step by step, following our question, what are the odds that Jesus would not have been crucified? And we're going to do that in a very nerdy kind of way, because back in the day our youth group used to play D&D a lot. So we're playing Dungeons & Dragons with Jesus now. That's a role-playing game where some of the decisions you make depend on your luck and the odds involved. So you got certain skills and certain skill levels, and you got certain levels of difficulty, and you got to overcome them with the roll of a dice. Most of those checks are done with a D20. That is a dice with 20 sides. So our D20 is going to guide us through this Jesus journey this morning. Because that's what the Bible said. They cast lots over his fate. the fate of his clothing, but now we're going to roll dice over Jesus' faith. So his journey to the cross really started with the decision to go to Jerusalem. That joyous entry that we're going to celebrate on Palm Sunday is the beginning of the end for Jesus' life. Did they have to go to Jerusalem in the first place? Well, the faithful Jew that he was, along with his disciples, for Passover you had to go to the temple, which was in Jerusalem. That's where all the festivities were. Yeah. So they pretty much had to go. Or maybe not. Because, everybody has to celebrate Christmas, but what are your odds of skipping Christmas, really? It's possible. So let's see. Jesus, being a devout Jew, he gets a modifier of, +7 on his religion check. So we're going to roll the dice for Jesus' religion, +7. And the difficulty level for attending Passover, because everybody has to anyway, is just 9. So with his +7, all we need is a 2 would be enough for Jesus to have to go to Jerusalem. I rolled a 14, so he's way above and beyond. So Jesus is going to the Jerusalem festivities, which really mean the beginning of the end for him. Was his arrest inevitable? Going to a festival doesn't mean you get arrested. But let's not forget, the Middle East was occupied by the Roman Empire back in the day. And the Roman leadership had to ensure peace and calm in the occupied territories. They didn't like religious uprisings, and that Jesus guy was a troublemaker. And he had a problem. He liked to heal people and perform miracles. It's tough to hide when you do that all the time. He had too many followers after all. We heard this passage from the Gospel of Mark. And in the Gospel of Mark, Jesus has a problem that Mark solves in an interesting way. Mark has Jesus perform miracles, heal the sick, do all kinds of great things. But the Jesus in Mark's Gospel, after performing miracles, always tells his disciples, but don't tell anyone. We call that the messianic secret. The Jesus of Mark is a very powerful one, but he does not want his power to be shared publicly. That's an interesting figure in literature, to take the reader into more knowledge than most of the people in the story. We know way more about Jesus than other people around him did, because Mark tells us more. And we're part of the miracle secret circle. So anyway, we got the healing power of Jesus and his hiding ability that really doesn't work out. Because really what Mark does with that messianic secret thing is he sparks interest. I'm not telling you what kind of a superhero I am. So here we have an oppose check in Dungeons and Dragons terms. So we got to oppose Jesus' healing versus his stealth skill. So he's a good healer, so he gets a +7 on healing. I rolled 4, so that makes it 11. On stealth, his hiding skills, since he's out in the public all the time, he gets a penalty of -5. And I rolled a 16, -5 is 11, so they're equal, so he failed. He was too public, so his arrest became inevitable. One last chance. We can still save him, because Passover is important to the people. Even the Roman occupiers knew that. So Pontius Pilate had a habit. The habit is that of a Passover amnesty. Since that day is important to your people, I will let one of your convicts on death row, I will let them go. And you remember the scene where there's Barabbas on one side and Jesus on the other, and the people basically pick the other guy to survive. That's pretty much like, hopefully, most of you that went out to the Caucasus this week. The popular vote that makes the right choice or makes the wrong choice. Jesus has a problem once more. A majority of people is never on Jesus' side. He just doesn't operate that way. Or, positively speaking, Jesus has a tendency to side with minorities. Jesus is never on the side of the powerful Roman occupiers, but the outcasts, the tax collectors, the sinners, prostitutes, all kinds of people that no one really likes, and they don't give you a decent majority in a popular vote. Jesus is not the popular kid, but the one despised by the people. So, check in his final appearance before the people. He has a 0 skill check modifier for diplomacy. That appearance won't do him any good. He doesn't do well with the general voting populace. And it's a very hard situation because the people are outraged at all kinds of things. So we really need to hit a 20 to achieve that goal. 12. Set Barabbas free. Crucify Jesus is what they're yelling. We didn't save him. We tried our best. But it's just that the odds were totally against him. Or weren't they? Because quite truthfully, this is not a matter of odds. Dividing his clothes may have been. This past week we had an important birthday party, and that was on Wednesday, March 14th. That was Albert Einstein. And he's popular for having said, God doesn't play dice with the world. God doesn't play dice with the world. That's not how it works. Jesus had to be crucified precisely to answer the prayer of Psalm 22. And it sounds like this, with the answer in it. Because of Jesus' crucifixion, we know our help comes quickly to our aid when we yell Mayday. We know our souls are delivered from the sword. Our souls are saved. My aid is coming on Mayday. Our souls are saved. Per SOS.